What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Ty Moore Tech. I'm Ty Moore, and today we're talking about privacy. Today we're talking about privacy, or as my friends across the pond like to call it, privacy. Have you ever been looking at something on your phone, searching for something on the internet, some sort of product or whatever, and then you flip over to like Facebook or Instagram or something else, and you're scrolling, and all of a sudden you see an ad for exactly the thing you were just looking at? Yeah, that happens a lot. I've even had people say that they were talking to somebody about a product and then they started seeing ads for it. I hope that's not the case. Maybe it is. It's a crazy world we're living in. So today we're talking about privacy. Why is it that ads show up on your phone for stuff you were just looking for? That's because companies are buying that information from apps that are tracking your searches, your activity, your actions on your phone. It's called app tracking. And these companies are trying to anticipate what you are going to be interested in so that they can advertise it to you so that you'll buy it. So if you're using Instagram and you scroll through something and you see a product that you like and you buy that thing, the company who sold that to you knows that Instagram is getting them their money's worth by advertising on them. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, these like social media things are free because they are being paid by advertising companies to promote products to you. And up until recently, all of that information on how you use the app was fair game for all of these companies to buy and understand how you use the app and what you might be interested in and what you might be searching the internet for, so that those companies can sell you stuff. It's a little crazy. Now, Apple has always been a company who has been big on privacy. They advertise that they care about your personal privacy. Apple also has a lot of like encryption stuff. So your messages, if Apple wanted to know what message you sent to somebody, they couldn't figure it out. They would have to have your phone or the phone of the person who you sent a message to know what your message said. Everything is encrypted. They call it end-to-end encryption, meaning on both sides it's encrypted so nobody can know what's going on. So a few years ago, with a iOS update, with a software update on iPhones, Apple introduced these two little dots up in the corner of your phone. There's a yellow dot and there's a green dot. What they do is they tell you when your microphone or your camera are being used on your phone. That sounds kind of silly, but you should know when your camera's being used, right? But what Apple knew, and this is why they introduced this feature, is that a lot of the apps that you use were using your microphone or your camera and not telling you. So Apple introduced these two little lights up in the top corner of your phone that told you when your camera was being used, there's a little green dot, and when your microphone was being used, there's a little yellow dot. And what happened was, right after that update, a bunch of companies got in real hot water because they were using your microphone when they didn't need to be using your microphone. And they blamed it on some bug, whatever. But Apple was making sure you, the user, were aware what's going on and how your phone is being used. So now, iOS 14.5. Your phone is probably running some version of iOS 14. iOS 14.5 is the most recent update. They introduced something called App Tracking Transparency. And what that is it's a toggle you can switch on or off to either not allow companies any access at all to tracking your data, or you can flip it on to allow companies to use your data after they ask you if they can use it. So say, for instance, you flip that toggle so that companies can ask you if they can use your data. When you open up that app, it's going to give you a little box that says, this company would like to access your data. You can click allow, or you can click do not allow. Now, you may have heard about this sort of thing in the news. If you heard about it from Facebook, it sounded like a terrible thing. But Facebook has tried to sue Apple for this app tracking transparency because Facebook, like we mentioned earlier, is paid by advertisers to advertise products to you. So for you to cut off Facebook's ability to track your data makes it a lot harder for them to sell you to advertisers. But Apple feels like you, the user, deserve that privacy. You deserve to make the choice whether or not apps are going to use your data. In fact, you can watch a video that Apple put out, I'll link it below, on what this is and why they're doing it. It's informative. It's kind of interesting to hear Apple's take on all this. You might find it informative. I think most of the people who watch my channel, this is news to you. And if you own an iPhone, I think you'll be really glad to have this feature, to have this ability to decide whether or not they're going to use your data. So what you do is you go into settings, you go into privacy, then you tap at the top on tracking, and there's a toggle there to allow companies to ask to track your data. If you flip it off, it won't even ask, they can't use your data. If you flip it on, those companies will have to ask you whether or not they can track your data. So, two main takeaways for this video. Number one, if you own an iPhone, you should probably upgrade to iOS 14.5. It'll be an update on your phone. You just go to Settings, General, Software Update, and then let that load, and it'll tell you that update is there if you're not already updated to it. And then you have the choice whether or not these companies can track your data. Apple feels like you deserve the choice, but I would like to have the choice. And so I updated to iOS 14.5. So if you have an iPhone, you ought to update to iOS 14.5. Number two is if you don't have an iPhone, you might want to consider getting an iPhone. Google is a data collection company. And if you've got a Google phone, it's in their best interest to collect your data. That's what they do. If you don't want that, if you really value your privacy, you should probably think about switching to a company that's erring on the side of privacy rather than collecting your data. And if you're thinking, well, I don't have a Google phone, I have a Samsung or whatever, there's a very good chance that your phone is running on Android software. And do you know who makes Android software? That's right. Google makes Android software. So it is a conflict of interest for them to care about your privacy when their main job is to collect as much data as humanly possible. Anyway, I know I bend toward Apple. And if you have a Google phone or you have an Android phone, there is no judgment on my end. But I know a lot of people around me who have Google phones like the idea of privacy. And Apple is doubling down on privacy. And I think it might be a good time to switch because stuff is getting weird. And people are tracking everything. And you might just want to buy a phone from a company who's not trying to collect as much data as humanly possible. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. Hopefully that uncomplicates some of your complicated technology. iOS 14.5, iPhones. Check it out. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.